Well, there we go. Hello and welcome to episode number 47 of the Knitting Teaspoon podcast. I'm Liesbeth, your host, and this is a podcast which is all about knitting, sewing, crochet, well, basically whatever craft I feel like. Recently there have been a lot of crafts that I've been dabbling into, so some of them are reoccurring and others are more of a one-time hit, I guess. Well, this week there has definitely been some knitting, although not really as much as I might think. So first of all, we have a sock here, and this is the Blueberry Waffle pattern, and I realized after recording last week that I completely forgot to mention who was the designer of this pattern, and now I thought, yeah, I should look that up, and of course I didn't, but I will put it in a down bar to give her some credit because it's a lovely pattern. It's free on Ravelry. I'm just using the texture pattern from her socks, and I'm using my own vanilla sock pattern for the shape of the socks. So you might think this has not grown a lot since last podcast, but that's not true because this is the second sock. Here's the first one, and this one is all finished, except that of course I have not woven in any ends because who does that? I have been considering actually buying some sock blockers, but I'm not 100% convinced yet. Might do that, might not, because I feel like it's easier to show you what the sock looks like when it's blocked, maybe. Yeah. There should be a reason that all the other podcasters are doing it, right? So, well, Blueberry Waffle sock. This is the first sock. I'm really happy with it. So the yarn that I've used is from Anjay and Mills in the Maguindano colorway. I'm really not sure how to pronounce it, and I thought I had misplaced the label, but it was right next to me. So here is the logo of Anjay and Mills. I think they are UK based, but I think the designer may originally be Dutch as well. I don't know. Anyway, I read something like that, I believe, on Instagram, but now I'm not really sure it's about her, so that's maybe a bit of a confusing rant. Anyway, so this is the Maguindano colorway, and I've put all the ties from around the skein on the little label here, which she had. Look at that, that's a cute little star. I think that's such a cute detail. I love it. So it's a nice card. And I have a terrible bad hair day today, so I tried to get my hair into shape, but it didn't want to do that today. So you guys are just gonna have to deal with this, I guess. So one sock finished and started on the second sock. I think I only finished it yesterday, and then I've been working on some other projects. I typically don't knit on other projects after I've finished one sock, then I just want to finish the second sock, but that really just limits itself to knitting, because if I have other projects that are other crafts such as crochet or sewing, well, they're not knitting, so I can work on them. That's just the craziness of my brain. It works. It really works like that. I don't know why. There has been one more knitting project though, and it still lives inside my project bag here. And I've been improvising a bit more on the colorwork socks that I have been working on, and it appears as though I'm mid-row because I always am, but with these type of short circular needles it will always look a bit like that. This way it looks a bit sad because there's this wheel pattern, and that just looks a bit sad if the wheels are upside down. But yeah, I just wanted to go for a nautical theme, and so I did. And I feel like my stitches look pretty wonky on this one, but I was in my local knit group and everyone said that I was knitting like I was making a machine knit or something, but I feel like if a machine knit looks like this, I would probably try and fix the machine. But maybe other colorwork looks even worse. I don't know. I have some experience in knitting colorwork, so yeah. But I really like how this is coming along, and I think I'm almost ready to start the heel actually. Don't think I have that much longer to go. I typically count the number of rows, like from the last increase that I did to a certain number, and there I start my increases for a gusset. I'm not really sure if I'm gonna do a gusset, because I did that differently on the socks that I just shown you. Usually I do a little bit of a heel flap and gusset something in my socks. It may look a bit like I did that because I didn't start the patterning on the backside of the leg portion until a bit higher up. That's because well, my shoes will typically hit my ankle somewhere here-ish, and I don't like that, and to have patterning going on there, because that will mean easier blisters for me. And I like to walk, and I like to walk on knitted socks, so yeah, I just had to remove the patterning. But usually I do a little bit of a heel flap and gusset here, and I didn't do that. I just did a short row heel because I felt like this pattern is stretchy anyway, because it's, well, basically it's some type of ribbing or interrupted ribbing maybe that makes the Blueberry Waffle pattern. And I have felt like a few of my socks lately have been a bit too loose on the heel, and it would not stay in place properly. So I thought I should vary a bit with what I did. And my older socks, before I did the heel flap and gusset thing, they fit me a bit better. Now it's definitely not alteration that is completely useless. I mean, it really depends on the shape of your feet whether it's useful or not, because I've knit socks like this without a heel flap or mini heel flap and gussets for my boyfriend in the past, and they don't fit him as well because he has kind of a high instep, but really I don't, so it's not as useful for me. But I have been using that technique for my socks anyway, and it just doesn't really make that much sense, I think. Or maybe I should just decrease the size of it, or decrease to a larger amount of stitches. So like if you look at the toe, maybe I should like cut off the top part a bit and knit the toe a bit broader, the heel a bit broader. I don't know. I'm just looking around a bit because I'm not as happy anymore with my standard sock type and its fit as I used to be. So yeah, I'm just trying some different types of socks now and see if I can find a new favorite, because let's face it, I've made like 20 pairs of those socks, and after a while it's maybe nice to move on to another type of sock. So I'm not really sure what's gonna happen here. I think I can still go both ways. I can do a little bit of a gusset. I can also not do that. I don't know. Also depends a bit on how broad the next stitch pattern will be. I think I'm already working on that, but you can't really see what it's gonna be yet. And I'm gonna keep it a secret because then it will be a surprise next week. But I can spoil one thing. It's gonna be Nautical or fishy. Anyway. My colorwork socks, and I love them. So that was all for the knitting content this week. Had to fetch another project first because I just remembered that I forgot something. I don't think that I did much on my latch hook this week. I'm not really sure if I did anything or nothing at all, but my latch hook work is typically on my sewing table, and this week I got back into sewing, so that meant that the latch hook had to clear the table and my sewing machine took its place again. So I have been working again on making some project bags. So I've made 2 of these bags this week. That's not a lot, but these bags actually take quite a bit of time to make. It kind of surprised me that they took that much time. I mean, I spent at least 2 hours making one of these, but I really like them. So these are my Japanese knot bags. So you take the long handle through the shorter one, and then you can hold this around your wrist, and yeah, the yarn goes in and you can knit from it on the go. Or I also like to use these while I'm seated so that my yarn doesn't roll over a table or anything, especially if there's not really a table close. Then it can be nice to have your yarn captured in a bag like this. So I've made two. Well, they look very similar, but they have different lining fabrics. So one of them is a bit beige and the other has a bit of a minty green going on there. So yeah, and these will probably go into my shop for, I do have an Etsy shop in which I sell these, but yeah. I think the price for these bags is a bit high, but it's just because they're quite labor intensive to make, or at least for me they are. Maybe if someone is a much speedier sewist than I am, I don't know, then maybe they can make them a lot faster, but not me. So I thought if I want to ask a fair price for my labor and of course all the materials that go into it, then I should give a decent price to my labor. Anyway, so I've made two of these and also made, well, basically 4 of these, but 2 are still midway in the project. So these are drawstring bags, except that I have not put in the drawstring yet and I have not ironed them yet. So here's one. They have the little stars on them and I really like it. The silver stars here, they are also metallic, so they actually shine a bit. I thought that was cute. And this one also has a little something to put stitch markers on or something, I don't know. Thought that would be handy maybe. Anyway, so this is probably gonna be a new model that is going into my Etsy shop as well. Just so you know. Anyway, I think one of the bags is probably, some of the bags that I make will also be part of giveaways that I do, and I am planning on having another giveaway soon because last year, February 12th, I uploaded my first podcast episode. So it's almost been a year. So next week I will be celebrating my, well, how do people call that? A podiversary? I think that sounds really awkward, so let's just call it a podcast anniversary. But yeah, it's been quite good to have this going on for as long as it has been. So yeah, thank you, especially if there's people here who have been with me from the beginning. I don't know, I know that a few people have been here from quite early on, but I don't know if anyone hopped on at the first episode. Anyway, doesn't really matter. But I'm just really glad that I've been doing this for a year now, and or almost for a year now, and I want to celebrate that. And there's probably gonna be a little bit of a giveaway next week, but I will announce the details of that next week. And then my birthday will be coming up early March, so I think that will probably be when I draw for prizes. So you will have some time to catch up. Anyway, so apart from that, there has also been a bit of crochet this week. So I have been working on my Sophie's Universe blanket, and I don't know where exactly I was last week, but I know that I've now completed section 5 of the blanket, and last week I had completed section 4, but I'm not sure if I already started section 5 or not. Anyway, there have been quite a bit more neutral colors in the last bit of this blanket, which kind of makes a somewhat more neutral frame for the crazy inside part of this blanket, but I really like that. Yeah, all these bright colors here, they all mean something to me, so that's good. Yeah, so it's growing. And I think it's well, difficult to see, but like this dark red color, I've used it like 3 rows at a time because the pattern suggested using the same color 3 times, and that made it look somewhat more pretty. And there's actually 2 colors of beige here, but they are very close, so you may not be able to distinguish them, but I know that there are 2 different colors because these are the leftovers of a pair of socks that I knit a while ago. I just fetched those socks because that might be interesting for you to see. So the last 4 colors that I've used on my Sophie's Universe blanket here have been leftovers from my colorwork socks that I've knit like years ago. So These are, well, definitely knee-high socks. They go slightly over the knee. And I love these to bits. So you can also see that they have been worn quite a bit. Yeah, they're not as nice and neat as they were when they were first finished, but these are probably my favorite socks, especially in winter when it's a bit colder. You can also obviously see that I've not used all the leftovers of these colors, because there's 2 colors of red in here, and I did use all the brown tones from it, but the white and the red were also used in my blanket, so most of those colors have been used up in there, although I do think I also have white leftovers of my blanket. So yeah, it's just same yarn, so I just passed them on to the next project, and then the scraps moved on to the next, etc, etc. But I just love these socks a lot. They've just been washed, so they're still wet and it feels a bit awkward, but yeah, I really love these socks. So this is the pattern Min Vakre Øy. It's a Norwegian pattern. I don't know how to pronounce it exactly, but it comes from a book about knitting strumper, which is also a Norwegian word, but it basically means socks, I believe, or maybe higher, somewhat higher socks. I don't know if that's the distinction between that word and another, but it's a pattern by Bitta Mikkelborg. Yeah, and she has a book full of sock designs, and I believe she has more books written actually about knitting patterns, but I only have the one which I found in a Norwegian supermarket, because there they sell knitting books in a supermarket. Who knew? Well, now you do. Anyway, so I think that's all for the projects that I have this week, but I wanted to show you something more, because I finally bought a woolly winder, so I can make cakes now with a tiny machine. And you guys, it's been frustrating because there's this yarn guide that's supposed to stay in one certain position, but it doesn't, so everything got tangled up in the machine several times, and it's been a process in which I had to take some deep breaths to make sure that I did not get completely frustrated. But I've made one cake, and there's 2 more cakes here. This one is a lot more squishy. That's because this is a 50-gram cake and this is a 100-gram cake. Can't really see that based on the size, but this one is definitely a lot more tight. This is some yarn that I bought in Austria a few years ago, and this is my first skein of hand-dyed yarn actually. I have already knit with another pair, but this was the first one that I actually dyed. I actually dyed 2 of them at the same time, so they're gonna be socks and probably soon, but I thought I just think it's a bit sad because I have a lot of pretty yarns behind me here that I've dyed myself, and a lot of even prettier hand-dyed yarns that I managed to obtain along the way. So some of them I've bought, some of them have come as a gift to me, but I tend to just pick some commercial skein, because from those I can kind of immediately start working. So often when I start a project, I'm like, oh, I'm heading to my parents for the weekend, so I need some easy car knitting, and let's just grab a skein that's all ready to go. So the commercial skeins, they are kind of ready to go as they come. So like this type of shape, well, you just pull from the center and it kind of works. It's not ideal because there's quite often a bit of knots going on in there, but yeah, it kind of works fast. And this is the red that I've used in the socks that I've just shown you, and in the crochet blanket. But because this is so much faster to start from, I tend to ignore all the beautiful skeins that I have behind me, which is just sad. So I thought, let's just buy a woolly winder and a Swift. My Swift is still on the way. I hope it's on the way, because I ordered it, but I never got confirmation that it was actually sent, so I'm not really sure where it is, but it should be on its way to me. Anyway, So I'm hoping to someday soon be the proud owner of a yarn swift as well. That will make the work with the woolly winder probably a lot easier as well. Anyway, so I thought let's just cake up some yarn so that they are all ready to go, and that will make it somewhat easier to take these instead of always gravitating towards the commercial yarn, because I don't have an hour to wind up a skein first, especially with the lace weights skein that I have. That will of course also takes somewhat longer on the woolly winder, but yeah, I think this will make my life a bit easier. Anyway, I think that was everything I had to share this week. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys have a lovely week, and I hope to see you again next week, and I will be celebrating my podcast anniversary then. So maybe I should burn like one candle for my podcast's first birthday. It's exciting. Anyway, so I hope to see you again next week. Bye!